Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakha Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of First Esdras, the 4th chapter. And picking up from where we left off in the 3rd chapter, if I recall correctly, it pretty much went into, let's actually do a quick, all right, so you had the bodyguards of Darius had basically a contest between themselves. I believe there were 3 of them. And they had a contest between themselves as to who could put forth the wisest saying. And so in the 3rd chapter, we went through the first one who said that basically, I guess the riddle or the saying was basically who or what was the strongest. And so the first one says it was wine, and he explains, why he believes that to be the case. And so now we're going to, and I believe also, so now we're going to what the 2nd and 3rd one said concerning what was the strongest. Now I mentioned in the lesson, the previous chapter, that there was a reason, right, as to why the Heavenly Father set up this contest in the first place, and why he made it, have such a large and broad audience. Okay, because this is going to be ultimately a step to further, the work of the Lord. So this is First Esdras chapter 4, verse 1. Then the second that had spoken of the strength of the king began to say, O ye men, do not men excel in strength, that bear rule over sea and land and all things in them? But yet the king is more mighty. For he is Lord of all these things, and hath dominion over them, and whatsoever he commandeth them, they do. If he bid them make war one against another, or one against the other, they do it. If he send them out against the enemies, they go, and break down mountains and walls and towers. They slay and are slain, and transgress not the king's commandment. So he's making the argument that the king is the strongest because look at all the power he has, the authority. If they get the victory, they bring all to the king, as well as the spoil, as all things else. Likewise, for those that are no soldiers and have not to do with wars, but use husbandry, right, like farming, planting, X, Y, and Z. When they have reaped again that which they had sown, so during harvest time, they bring it to the king and compel one another to pay tribute unto the king. So he's saying the king is so powerful that, when it comes to even like the army or the soldiers, they do exactly what he tells them to do. When they go and risk their lives and they conquer and gain victory, that victory gets attributed to the king. When they find any spoils or, any goods, that comes back to the king. And even for those that are not, warriors or in the army, that are like husbandmen and farmers and so on and so forth, even when they harvest the first fruits, their best crops, they bring it onto the king, and they compel one another to basically do alongside, right? It says, and yet he is but one man. If he command to kill, they kill. If he command to spare, they spare. If he command to smite, they smite. If he command to make desolate, they make desolate. If he command to build, they build. So pretty much the king has the authority, right? If your life is in his hand. If he gives the order for you to be put to death, you're going to be put to death. And even if he's like a crazed king or a mad king, they still respect his orders, right? Verse 9, if he command to cut down, they cut down. If he command to plant, they plant. So all the people, or all his people, and his armies obey him. Furthermore, he lieth down, he eateth and drinketh, and taketh his rest. And these keep watch round about him. Neither may anyone depart to do his own business, neither disobey they him in anything. So your job to watch the king is exactly that. That's your role. You're not allowed to do anything else but that. O ye men, how should not the king be mightiest, when in such sort he is obeyed, and he held his tongue. So that was what the second one, that was his pitch, right, as to why the king is the strongest and not wine. Verse 13, then the third, who had spoken of women and of the truth, this was Zerubbabel, began to speak. So the first said it was wine. Wine was the strongest. He explained why. The second said the king was the strongest, and we just read his explanation. And the third, which was Zerubbabel, said women were the strongest, but above them, truth prevails. Verse 14, O ye men, it is not the great king, nor the multitude of men, neither is it wine that excelleth. Who is it then that ruleth them, or hath the lordship over them? Are they not women? Women have borne the king, and all the people that bear rule by sea and land. Even of them came they, and they nourished them that planted the vineyards from whence the wine cometh. Now, what he is saying here, right? Remember that this is a contest. So Zerubbabel is basically defending his point. So yes, he is making points about the power of women, but this is not to be taken out of context and used to try and justify, women doing things against the scriptures. Because I know that there are going to be some individuals out there. Oh, see, First Esdras 4, even Zerubbabel, look at what he said about women. Okay. So just putting that out there. But anyway, let's keep on going. Right. So he's saying here, look, women, right? Women, the king that you said is the strongest. Guess what? He was born of a woman. Right. All the people that he rules over, guess what? They were also born of women. The warriors, the husbandmen, and all of them that are subject to the king. Guess what? They're nourished by women in order for them to grow and do that job in the first place. Right. And their job is where wine that you said is the strongest comes from. Verse 17, these also make garments for men. These bring glory unto men. And without women cannot men be. Not in the sense that men cannot exist, but meaning that, in terms of sustenance, in terms of the roles that the women play, in this case, men can't play the roles of women, okay, like the way that they were created to do it. So that's the point he's making here, that they're essential. But remember, he's also making his case as to why his saying is the wisest. Yea, and if men have gathered together gold and silver, or any other goodly thing, do they not love a woman which is comely in favor and beauty? And letting all those things go, do they not gape, and even with open mouth fix their eyes fast on her? So gape, like, like that, like the saying starstruck, but when you see a woman that looks real good, they show you this in like some of the old back in the day cartoons. They'll see like a chick that looks really good, and then their jaw will just drop and their eyes will turn into like red hearts that are trying to run out of their eye sockets. That's like an example right there. Even with open mouth, fix their eyes fast on her. All right, meaning like that's their eyes are, their head is turning along with her movements. And have not all men more desire unto her than unto silver or gold, or any goodly thing whatsoever? A man leaveth his own father that brought him up, and his own country, and cleaveth unto his wife. He sticketh not to spend his life with his wife, and remembereth neither father, nor mother, nor country. Meaning, when a man gets a woman, he gets his wife, and, he loves her so much that ultimately keep in mind, right? Your family, when you're young, right? Your immediate family, when you're younger, it's mainly like your father, your parents, and your siblings, if you have any. Like if you want to go down to like the closest. But over time, when you grow, you then start your own family, right? You get a wife, and then you have children. So that now becomes your immediate family. Your parents are still obviously a part of your family. Your siblings are as well. But if you notice, as you grow, you start to become more independent, and that tight next of kin now becomes your wife and your children. Because they're the ones that are now sort of like 24/7 in your life, as to where now you've grown, as we're reading here, and you sort of, your parents, your mom, your father, they've done their job. So you still take care of them, but now that immediate family becomes, like we're reading here, your wife and children. Like that's why it says, and he will leave his own father and his mother, or in this case, he'll leave his father and cleave unto his wife. Verse 21, he sticketh not to spend his life with his wife, and remembereth neither father, nor mother, nor country. By this also ye must know that women have dominion over you. Do ye not labor and toil, and give and bring all to the woman? So he's saying, I made some points, but now check this out. And what I'm about to tell you, what I'm about to explain right now, should make it clear that women have dominion over you, right? So it says, do ye not labor and toil, and give and bring all to the woman? Yea, a man taketh his sword, and goeth his way to rob, and to steal, to sail upon the sea and upon rivers. He looketh upon a lion, and goeth in the darkness, and when he hath stolen, spoiled, and robbed, he bringeth it to his love. So in other words, a man who will traverse the world, will risk his life, would steal, would rob, would do all of these things so he can bring it to his love, to his woman. And in actuality, if you look at society, there are a lot of things that people do that if you really trace it down, the core of it comes down, to this point that Zerubbabel is making. Okay, but I'm going to keep emphasizing that he is tailoring his point to this contest so that he can basically win. Okay, verse 25. Wherefore a man loveth his wife better than father or mother. Yea, many there be that have run out of their wits for women, and become servants for their sakes. And you see a lot of that today. Running out of your wits, meaning like they've lost their minds. They've completely how do I even put this? Subjected themselves, right? Like a man has created a certain way, to think a certain way, to move a certain way, but there are many men that have thrown that out the window for women and conformed, like it says, and become servants for their sakes. And he's going to give an example here with the king and, his concubine. Verse 27, many also have perished, have erred, and sinned for women. And one example is, or actually two examples, and there are very many, but maybe three examples. So you had Ahab, right? There's the account of Ahab and Jezebel. And in particular, there was an account where Ahab wanted I think it was a certain land that was close to his region, but it was owned by another Israelite. And when Ahab asked that Israelite to sell it to him, he said no, he couldn't. It was his inheritance. And by influence of his wife Jezebel, Ahab basically just subjected to her, and she gave out the order to have the man murdered so that Ahab could get that land. See, you also had a case of King David, which for a woman, which was Bathsheba, he committed murder and adultery, right? He had Uriah the Hittite set up to be killed, to be murdered, or to be put to death. And he committed adultery with his wife, but he committed adultery before the murder. And then you had King Solomon, for example, right? Whose heart departed from the Lord in his old age. Why? Because of the women. See, so Zerubbabel is making an actual point here. Verse 28, and now do ye not believe me? Is not the king great in his power? Do not all regions fear to touch him? Yet did I see him and Apame, the king's concubine, the daughter of the admirable Bacticus or Bardicus, sitting at the right hand of the king, and taking the crown from the king's head and setting it upon her own head. She also struck the king with her left hand. Now, Tell me what other individual, what other man would go on there, or woman, okay? But in this case, let's say what other man would have the audacity to even get that close to the king and touch his crown? Not only just touch it, take it off his head, put it on their head, and then smack the king. What do you think would have happened to an individual who even spoke about doing that? And yet, this woman who, if you compared, say this individual that I just described was like maybe the head of the army. You have this woman who is physically weaker, you know, and I mean, if it came down to strength, obviously this general would completely win by a landslide. And yet, she is able to do this that he can't even think about doing. Once again, adding to his point, right? Many have run out their wits for women because, hey, there's examples where you have individuals that out in the streets, they're the toughest man on the block, right? You can't even breathe too much when you're in their presence, you know, and yet they go home and it's a different story because their women got them on a string. It says here, and taking the crown from the king's head and setting it upon her own head, she also struck the king with her left hand. And yet for all this, the king gaped and gazed upon her with open mouth. Wow. If she laughed upon him, he laughed also. So if she starts laughing, whatever she thinks is funny, even if she's making fun of him, guess what? He's laughing too. But if she took any displeasure at him, the king was fain to flatter that she might be reconciled to him again. Meaning, if she got mad at him, he would flatter her, you know, do all these things that he could so that she wouldn't be mad at him anymore. Shows you that even a king couldn't escape. Like the Apostle Paul said, you know, you're gonna have trouble in the flesh. You know, it's funny because that's really how women are anyway. You know, they get mad for whatever reason it is. Sometimes they just make up things in their heads, you know, and they make up scenarios based on something and take it as far as possible, and then they get mad over that. Now you got to come fix it. Anyway, back to the point that he's making here. Verse 32, O ye men, how can it be but women should be strong, seeing they do thus? Then the king and the princes looked one upon another. So they start looking at each other like, yo, you know what I'm saying? He ain't lying. He's speaking some facts. Because they all know. They know exactly what he's talking about. Seeing they do thus. Anyway, so it says they looked one upon another. So he began to speak of the truth. So he first spoke of women and why he said they're the strongest. He made his case. And then he began to speak on the truth as to why the truth still prevails. O ye men, are not women strong? Great is the earth, high is the heaven, swift is the sun in his course. For he compasseth the heavens round about, and fetcheth his course again, and fetcheth his course again to his own place in one day. Yeah, that's why they say the sun. That's why the sun pretty much always rises, as they say, in the east and sets in the west, and then once again, you know, rinse and repeat. Verse 35, is he not great that maketh these things? Therefore great is the truth and stronger than all things. All the earth crieth upon the truth, and the heaven blesseth it. All works shake and tremble at it, and with it is no unrighteous thing, because that's the truth. Wine is wicked, the king is wicked, women are wicked, all the children of men are wicked, and such are all their wicked works, and there is no truth in them. In their unrighteousness also they shall perish. So he's making a point here that if you were to compare wine, women, the king, all of these things to the truth, they would all be wicked. They would all be, it wouldn't be comparable. Verse 38, as for the truth, it endureth and is always strong. It liveth and conquereth forevermore. So wine comes and goes. Wine doesn't exist if you don't make it. You know, it's just that. The king dies. The women die. But the truth prevails forevermore. The truth has been here since the beginning, and it's always been here. We come and go. Like the scriptures say, we're like a breath. Right. So as for the truth, it endureth and is always strong. It liveth and conquereth forevermore. And that's the thing about truth, is you can never change it. It is, no matter what you do, it is what it is. So you know what lies are? Lies are just ways to cover up the truth, but lies can't change the truth. If you really think about it, the truth is pretty much invincible. It'll always, if something happens, right? Somebody, commits a crime or something like that happens and they start investigating. There's going to be the truth of the matter, which is what actually happened. And then there's going to be a lot of he say, she say, lies, deception, and all of these things. But even with all of those things, the truth remains unchanged. It's always going to exist. It's always going to be there. And at some point, some way, some shape or form, it will be uncovered. If you dig far enough, some way, some shape or form, it'll be uncovered. Where are we at? So it says here, with her, there is no accepting of persons or rewards, but she doeth the things that are just. And this is a personification of truth, right? Truth is conceptual. It's not like an actual woman, but here it's like similar to like wisdom, right? It's likened onto a woman, in a personified way. And often this is done to sort of, attribute certain traits or characteristics to this concept, which is easier to do when you personify it, right? You make it, her, she, to drive your point home, basically. So it says here, but she doeth the things that are just, and refraineth from all unjust and wicked things. And all men do well like of her works. Yeah, who doesn't want to know the truth? Even the most wicked individual wants to know the truth. Okay. Now, if you take truth in the matter of just like the general sense of like the truth of any particular matter, everybody desires that. Even liars want to know the truth. Okay. Neither in her judgment is any unrighteousness, right? Because the judgment is righteous, is not perverted, is not based on the respective persons, is not based on anything but the truth. And she is the strength, kingdom, power, and majesty of all ages. Blessed be the God of truth. And with that, he held his peace, and all the people then shouted and said, great is truth and mighty above all things. So you at this point, the first guy and the second guy, they already knew that Zerubbabel just blew it out the park. He just completely he won, to put it short. Then said the king unto him, ask what thou wilt, more than is appointed in the writing. Because remember, when we read before, they had the contest was whoever would win would get like the purple robe or garment, the gold chain about their neck, the linen, head wrap and whatnot, and all these gifts. And this point that Zerubbabel made, the speech was so, it was so captivating, so good, that the king said, look, whatever was appointed in the writing plus more, ask and I'm going to give it to you. Now, there is a chance that, say, maybe Zerubbabel didn't give this answer, or maybe he wasn't in this contest and it was somebody else who came and gave a pretty good answer, but maybe not as good as this. Chances are, they might have said, hey, okay, good, congrats, you won, we'll give you the things in the writing. But the Lord was with Zerubbabel to speak with such wisdom that I guess they were so astonished. They were like, look, you can have this and then some. And there's a reason. And we will give it thee because thou art found wisest, and thou shalt sit next me and shalt be called my cousin. So you're pretty much going to be in his court. And this is also a good account because I mentioned this. Let's see, what video was it? I think it was in the lesson I did on taking the ticket, right? Take the ticket and go home, something like that. It was a response video. But I basically mentioned in there, if it wasn't that one, then forgive me, but I think I recall it being that one, that right now, on this side, the Lord, the power the Lord has blessed us with is that wisdom, So when you find yourself in certain situations, apply wisdom, because that is your greatest, benefit to get out of that situation. And in fact, it's more effective than trying to be a tough guy or trying to get physical, especially if it's like a case where you're stopped by a police officer or something like that. And I was given some examples as to different men, different accounts in the scriptures where those that applied wisdom were actually put in a higher position, okay, than just having, physical strength or being a tough guy. And here's one example. Zerubbabel being a guard of the king's body. You think they're just going to pick somebody that's just frail and incompetent to do that job? No. But it wasn't that put him, in this position to where he's now, as it says, in the king's court, he's getting all these rewards. No, it was wisdom. So it goes to show you how effective wisdom is, when you're really blessed with it by the Lord and you use it appropriately. So verse 43, then said he unto the king, remember thy vow. Now pay attention. See, the king said, you can get whatever you want. And he could have asked for anything he wanted, but this is what he asked for. And the reason is because the Lord put the spirit on him too. So it says, remember thy vow, which thou hast vowed to build Jerusalem, in the day when thou camest to thy kingdom. So when you came into power, and to send away all the vessels that were taken away out of Jerusalem, which Cyrus set apart, when he vowed to destroy Babylon and to send them again thither. So just a bit of a recap. When we read in the first chapter, Cyrus gave the decree and we were able to go and start building Jerusalem. But when Cyrus, died and his son Cambyses came into power, the governors and scribes and of the neighboring regions made a report against us to Cambyses, and he stopped us from continuing to build the temple, all the way up until the time of Cyrus. The time of Darius. So this is that time where we're at now. And Zerubbabel is now asking Darius to say, hey, remember that vow. Now when he's saying here the vow that thou vowed to build Jerusalem, he could be referring to the vow that was made by Cyrus, or Darius himself when he came into power might have, actually said that, right? But there's no account here, at least that I've seen, relating to that. Nevertheless, Zerubbabel is basically asking him to say, allow us to go back and continue building the temple. And now, to the point that I was making in the lesson before this one, which is, this is why the Lord had them have that contest and had the contest be this major thing where all the princes of the provinces were invited. So now this would allow for this case where Zerubbabel is now asking Darius to allow him to go build a temple. So now they have a way to go back and continue the building. And the Lord put the spirit on because Darius could have said, wow, that was amazing. All right, we're going to give you everything in the writing and then call it a day. But for some reason, he said no, and then anything else you want. And then on top of that, when Zerubbabel asked for this, as we're about to read, Darius could have said, nah, that's a little too much, ask for something else. But he didn't. So it was all the Lord's working anyway. This is just how he wanted it to play out. Where we at? So verse 44 or 45, thou also hast vowed to build up the temple, which the Edomites burned when Judea was made desolate by the Chaldees. So there's your proof right there as to how the Edomites were involved when the Babylonians came and laid siege to Jerusalem and destroyed the walls. And guess what? The Edomites were there helping them. And as it says, they burned it. They burned the temple. So here it is. Back then, when we were being taken captive, you burned the temple, and now you turn around and you want to build it. You want to, Anyway, verse 46. And now, O Lord the King, this is that which I require, and which I desire of thee, and this is the princely liberality proceeding from thyself. I desire therefore that thou make good the vow and performance whereof thine own mouth, with thine own mouth, thou hast vowed to the King of heaven, which is the Most High. Verse 47, then Darius the king stood up and kissed him, and wrote letters for him unto all the treasurers and lieutenants and captains and governors, that they should safely convey on their way both him and all those that go up with him to build Jerusalem. And that kiss right there is like, you know, in the ancient world, a kiss was either for a greeting or in this case, like, you know, rejoicing, but it wasn't, he didn't kiss him on the lips, okay? Because even till today, there are certain areas where you go where they do that kiss on the cheek. You know, it's not a, you know, a weird thing. But here, because of this perverse generation, this perverse, you know, energy that this place emanates out, people look at this as like, whoa, that's kind of, you know. But just to point that out there, so it wasn't like some weird stuff was going on over here. Anyway, so he basically says, you know, hey, you can have this, you can have that, and yes, I'm gonna grant this for you. I'm gonna even have the treasurers, the lieutenants, the captains, all of them. They're gonna give you safe passage and everything you need to go back and build Jerusalem. Verse 48, he wrote letters also on to the lieutenants that were in Seleucia or Coal Syria and Phoenicia, and on to them in Libanus, which is Lebanon, that they should bring cedar wood from Lebanon or Libanus onto Jerusalem, and that they should build the city with him. Moreover, it doesn't mean here that the heathens would come in here and do this. It just means like whatever assistance that we needed, you know, to do the building, whether it was like manpower or even just resources, that they should accommodate for that for us. Verse 49, moreover, he wrote for all the Jews that went out of his realm up into Jewry concerning their freedom, that no officer, and Jewry is Jerusalem. So all the Israelites that went, you know, that were a part of going up to, you know, build and so on and so forth. As it says here, concerning their freedom, that no officer, no ruler, no lieutenant, no treasurer should forcibly enter into their doors. So kind of like a anti-warrant, right? Like today, you know, police they get a warrant, they can come and search your apartment, your house, whatever it is. Well, here he's saying nobody's allowed to do that. You know, you're going to leave them alone. And that all the country which they hold should be free without tribute. So wherever they're dwelling, that you know, where they're at, don't tax it. And that the Edomites should give over the villages of the Jews which they held. So these damn Edomites, when all this was going on, they helped the Babylonians against us. They burned the temple and they took some of our villages. Verse 51, yea, that there should be yearly given 20 talents to the building of the temple. That is a lot, whether it was gold or silver, that was a lot. Okay, and I've gone into this, you know, quite a couple of times, but when you look into a talent, you look at weight, it says here, let's see, maybe let me read this highlighted part first. So it says the heavy common talent used in the New Testament times was 58.9 kg or 129 pounds. A Roman talent divided into 100 librae or pounds was 1 1/3 Attic talents. Okay, I need weights that. Okay, so we have here approximately 32.3 kg or 71 pounds. An Egyptian talent was approximately 60 pounds. So you still get the gist of it, which is it's around, you know, these weights, right, based on where it was. But a talent was, you know, it was a lot. Okay. So let's keep on going. Like today, if you go to buy like an ounce of gold, that's a lot of money you got to spend, right? Like let's look it up. Let's see how much is 1 ounce of gold worth in US dollars. Look at that. This is for 1 ounce. You paying $2,367.20 for 1 ounce. Okay. A talent is roughly anywhere from, as we're reading here, 60 to 130 pounds. Pounds, not ounces. So it's a lot. Okay. Anyway, where are we? Yeah, verse 51. Yea, that there should be yearly given 20 talents to the building of the temple, until the time that it were built. So every year they should give them 20 talents, not one, not two, but 20 yearly that would be used to continue with the building. And other 10 talents yearly. So then in addition to that, you're going to give them another 10 talents to maintain the burnt offerings upon the altar every day, right? Because that, it's not like it's free. You got to get the animals that are going to be used. You got to get the materials. You got, all that stuff that you need, resources, all of that good stuff. It says, as they were commanded to offer 17. Now, this part, I'm aware that in the law, the Lord required us to have the morning oblation and the evening oblation, so as to where they got the 17 from here, not entirely sure, where that's coming from, but maybe that was I don't know, maybe that was something that they decided to do at this time. But at least going back to the law, we know that there were, as far as the daily oblation, you had the morning and then you had the evening. Okay, so this maybe could have been different burnt offerings in addition to that, but yeah, that's that. Verse 53, it says, and that all they that went from Babylon to build the city should have free liberty, as well they as their posterity, and all the priests that went away. So pretty much like now imagine this, right? From winning that contest, this is all the benefit that came from it. That we were able to go back and build the city. We were blessed with the resources to do so. So this was something the Lord had already set up that it was going to happen. This is just how he made it manifest, right? By having this contest set up, having Zerubbabel win it, having him ask for this, and then having Darius be generous enough to say, oh yeah, and then what, matter of fact, I'm gonna give you the resources, I'm gonna give you the safe passage, I'm gonna give you all the stuff you need and all the money you need and free passage for anybody that wants to go. You're just gonna be set. Anyway, so this is the Lord's doing, right? But he's using, of course, men. And in this case, Darius. Verse 53, and that all they that went from Babylon to build the city should have free liberty, as well they as their posterity, so their children, their descendants, and all the priests that went away. He wrote also concerning the charges and the priests' vestments wherein they minister. So, all the whatever amount, whatever the costs were, it would be covered for the priest vestments and all the stuff that they used to serve the Lord. And likewise for the charges of the Levites to be given them until the day that the house were finished and Jerusalem builded up. So building the temple and Jerusalem. And he commanded to give to all that kept the city pensions and wages. So all those that were, working and guarding and whatever role they were playing in terms of the building and all of that, they were given pensions, they were given wages, they were paid. He sent away also all the vessels from Babylon that Cyrus had set apart, and all that Cyrus had given in commandment, the same charged he also to be done, and sent on to Jerusalem. And we read about that in 1 Esdras, the 1st chapter. Now when this young man was gone forth, he lifted up his face to heaven, and this is Zerubbabel. He lifted up his face toward Jerusalem, and praised the King of heaven, and said, from thee cometh victory, from thee cometh wisdom, and thine is the glory, and I am thy servant. Blessed art thou, who hast given me wisdom, for to thee I give thanks, O Lord of our fathers. And so he took the letters and went out and came on to Babylon and told it all his brethren. And they praised the God of their fathers because he had given them freedom and liberty to go up and to build Jerusalem and the temple which is called by his name. And they feasted with instruments of music and gladness 7 days. So they were rejoicing, hey, it's lit. Oh, what? Wait, what? You said what? The king did what? Hold on, let me see that. Looking at the letters. Oh shit, that's true. Oh, hey, all excited to go back and, finally complete the building. Because, especially in the ancient world, we took, especially as Israelites, we took joy and pride and, in our customs, our heritage. But due to the curses and the state of the nation today, we've been driven far from it, save for the remnant that the Lord has. And then now he's gathering us back, and basically turning us back to the old ways. So that brings us to the end of First Esdras, the 4th chapter. And Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachak Kodash. Until next time, Shalom.